6.3 trinomial squares. So first we learned how to recognize them. So now we're going to learn how to factor them. Alright, so let's go right into it. Looking at this backwards, so before we kind of looked at this formula, if we have a plus b squared, now remember, a plus b squared is not equal to a squared plus b squared. You cannot distribute. That does not work. When you have a plus b squared, that's the same as saying a plus b times a plus b. You'll see this over and over and over again, and we must be certain of how we put them together. Alright. So, let's look at this. This is one from actually just the last video. But this, I'm just going to look at my A here and my last number here. This tells me, this means their sign. So that's the sign that we're going to use. So I know I'm going to have a plus in my square. So I can separate that to be x squared. It'll be x right here, and I'll look at the very end, 3 squared. So we would have the 3 there, and this is putting together our perfect square trinomial. Let's try this again. Again, I'm going to use that sign. This tells me my sign. Negative in a square. What squared is x squared? Well, that's x. What squared? Right, as what squared is 49. Well, that would be 7. 7 squared is 49. Okay, let's do this again. My sign. What squared is 16x squared? That would be 4x. And what squared is 25y? That would be 5y. So my sign on this one, this doesn't have a perfect square. Notice 27 squared is not anything that I can easily obtain. So I then look, do they all have something in common? Well, I notice that they all are divisible. 27, 72, and 48 is all divisible by 3. So 27 divided by 3 is going to be 3, parentheses, 9m squared plus 24mn plus 16n squared. So now I keep that 3 on the outside, and I notice that these are now perfect squares. So I'm going to take the sign in the middle there, this sign. I'll end up with, instead of 9, 3m squared gives me 9m, and 4n brings me to that. These two multiplied by each other times 2 gives me the 24. And so I end up with 3m plus n squared. Alright, here are 3 problems for you to try. Make sure you try and factor out something if you need to.